ready.
And hello and welcome once again, whoever you are, wherever you are watching from, or whenever you're watching from, to our daily Limbus company, the ID study and book reading. Today we will be looking at a kind of overshadowed, kind of forgotten group of IDs, the Rosespanner workshop, most known for being annoying the hell out of me during solo dungeons, because they keep haunting me for every fucking floor I go, and the fact that they are kind of mid, comparatively speaking. In any case, today we're going to be studying them, and we're going to go fast because, well, today's update day, so we have to go fast. I have to beat these in less than 2 hours. Now, I did lower my volume of my microphone a little bit. I have been rewatching some of my streams and noticed that my volume is a little too high, and I'll probably fix that when I cut up the video with for the book reading. But for now, my voice is going to be a little bit lower, so don't worry about it too much. Also, hello Kyle, nice to see you. Let's begin with Rosespanner Workshop Gregor. Let me just get my notepad open for any notes I have to take about these guys. Standing at 212 HP, 4-6 speed, 58 defense level, he is fatal to pierce, but strong against slash. He possesses the sin of gluttony, envy, and gloom, much similar to what we played yesterday. Envy, gloom, except instead of gluttony we had the sloth. So, and he has a gluttony block, 8.8, 16, kind of weak. Anyway, passive, saw blade fired up. At 4 own gluttony, he inflicts 1+ rupture to targets that have tremor. That's something, I suppose. Skill 1, rev up a nice 11 roller. It gains charge count, inflicts rupture, and if the target has 5 tremor count, he inflicts a additional rupture. No count here, just 5 rupture. Problem is, no escalation of his attack here. It's a straight 11 roller. Other 0/0 IDs have escalation for their 11 for their skill 1s. This one has none. Skill 2, Grease the Chains, is a nice 16 roller with no ramp up for his coin power, gains charge count, inflicts tremor count, and rupture count. A decent amount, I suppose, for a single coin skill. So that's +2 tremor, +2 rupture count. And for his skill tree, let's grind them. It's a 4-3-3-3-3, a very anemic 13, but it does have 1 escalation if the target has 5+ tremor. Meaning this becomes a 4-4-4-4, a 16 roller. It rolls as high as his skill 2, so they're kind of a baseline without tremor. This is, well, underwhelming, but it is a 0/0 ID, so we don't expect much for it. It triggers Tremor Burst, and consumes charge count on self to inflict additional rupture count equal to the charge consumed, up to 4. Well, this has some decent count application, I say. Inflicts rupture the second coin. If the target stagger, he deals more damage. If the target has 5+ tremor, he inflicts rupture. Same thing as before, and that's a lot of rupture. That's pretty good. So only magic number we have to watch out for is 4 charge self, 5 tremor target. Got it. And for his defense skill is nothing. It's a 16 roller. Brainstorms will sort of happen to rupture and tremor team outside of the mirror dungeon, but by the end of my research, it turned out to be any more boring than I expected. Yeah, tremor rupture is kind of like they don't mesh that well together. In any case, moving on to Rosespanner Workshop Fixer, Mercel. Look how happy he is to be here. Standing at 238 HP, 3-8 speed, 60 defense level, he is fatal to pierce and strong against slash. But then the sins of gloom, as we can see, pride, and sloth, surprisingly. Let me just mark this down here for Greg. His active passive is Chronic Fatigue. In a clash, the opponent has -1 clash power if they have 5+ tremor. When recovering from stagger, he heals 5% of his max HP. Not bad, but it's very automatic, so we don't have anything to watch out for here. That we need to like count how much stat ailment an enemy has or anything like that. It's just they have clash power if they have 5 tremor, and we get more HP when we recover from a stagger, which is interesting. Subtle Tasks, a 10 roller, but it has escalation. If the target has 5+ tremor, it gains 2 coin power. It's the same, it's a single coin skill, making this a 12 roller. Quite underwhelming, but it's a double OID, so there is nothing special here. For Mersault, he has some escalation, so we're looking out for 5 tremor target. It inflicts tremor, and on head inflicts additional tremor, so he almost meets the quality, the conditional with a single attack. For skill 2, Forced Break, it is a 5/4/4, making it a 13 roller. 13 roller is kind of on the weak side of things. If the target has 7+ tremor count, final power +1. Another magical number to watch out for. Again, I don't really need to watch out for these numbers, they're very automatic, but it's nice to know. Heads hit, inflicts tremor, on hit, inflicts tremor, on hit with the second coin. If the target has 5+ tremor, now that is very interesting. It inflicts 1 attack power down next turn. But it just ended up being at rupture, do a little bit of extra damage and reverb. I guess you just kind of need to use a worse conversion. Sometimes you need enough, don't have enough count. Yeah, seems to be like the recurring complaint about people that use rupture is not enough count because it activates on hit. In any case, I never much cared for that. So, Mirror Dungeon, you have infinite count, so I don't much care. Now, this is a prime candidate for replacing all his skills 2 with skills 1s, but just because of this attack power down. Finally, finishing run up, a 4/2/2/2, making this a 12 roller, but if the target has 10+ tremor, he gains coin power +1. And that coin power +1 is pretty interesting because that's an additional 4 power. So for a 8 roller, no, hold on, 2, 2, 4, 4, 4, 8, 12, and then you gain another 4. That's a 16 roller. That is rolling as high as a skill 2 for a more recent unit. This attack is kind of underwhelming. It inflicts gains charge, and when triggering tremor burst, reduce tremor count by 3, then spend all charge count to further raise stagger threshold by charge count times percentage. So he has a super tremor, essentially. Yeah, super tremor burst on the final hit of his skill. Very nice. And his guard is a 16 roller. There is nothing that interesting here. Moving on to Rosespanner Workshop, Rhodia. Standing at 224 HP, 3 to 6 speed, 59 defense level, same as before, strong versus slash, but weak against pierce. She possesses the sin of Pride, Sloth, and Envy, with a Sloth block. Her active passive is, here's to get it off early. On Tremor Burst, she spends 3 charge counts to increase the stagger threshold raised by 40%. After triggering Tremor Burst, gain 1 haste and 1 blunt damage up next turn. So she has the same super Tremor Burst as our boy Mersault, but she also has a extra haste and blunt damage up next turn. And as far as I can see, there is no limit to how many times we can do this. So it's not once per turn, so as long as we keep Tremor Bursting, we keep gaining damage blunt up, and it's for own Pride, which is pretty nice. Skill 1, Rev Up, a nice 11 roller here with no escalation, gains charge count, inflicts tremor, gain charge count, inflicts tremor count. Quite like Rodent support passive is quite unique. When one ally with a slow speed triggers Tremor Burst, increases stagger threshold by 20%. Yeah, I'm gonna call this the amped Tremor Burst, because it's kind of what it is. It just takes the effect off Tremor Burst and makes it more potent. So it's an amped Tremor Burst. Skill 2, Vibration Compression. It's a nice 10 roller. Wow. But if the target has 10 tremor, if the target has 10 tremor count, she gains +1 coin power, which makes this a 14 roller. This is a sad skill for a 000 ID. This is an incredibly sad skill. Yeah, this is so sad. Anyway, it inflicts tremor count, inflicts 2 tremor at 3 charge count, reuse this coin if it lands heads up to 2 times, inflict 2 tremor each time the coin is reused. If the coin is reused twice, inflict tremor, then trigger Tremor Burst. After Tremor Burst, reduce tremor count. Aha! And now we see what makes this skill okay. The conditional for 10 tremor count is ridiculous, but tremor does accumulate count quite often, so it's not really a problem. The reuse requires her max sanity. This is a horrible skill for clashing, but this is an okay skill for one-sided attack, because it rolls pathetically low, but it can be reused up to 2 times. So it can, you know, assuming we have the conditional online, that's a 14 roller, and then with the reuse it becomes the 18, and then it becomes the 22 with a tremor burst at the end. But horrible for clashing. Horrible for clashing. And finally, let's rack up some scores. A 5, 4, 4, 4. 4, 4, 4, making this a 12, a 17 roller. Gains charge count on use, inflicts tremor with the second coin on head's hit, trigger tremor burst, and on the third hit, it also triggers tremor burst. After tremor burst, reduce tremor count by 1. If staggered, deal 25% of the damage dealt as bonus damage. So here we have it. This is a damage dealer ID, in my opinion. She is horrid for clashing. None of these skills here are very good for raw numbers, but the fact that she has 2 skills that can potentially tremor burst, her 2 and her 3 that does true tremor bursts, mind you, means her passive is going to keep proccing, and she's going to keep gaining that blunt damage up and haste. That's her deal here. I don't know where... Oh yeah, this one. The only uses of charge she has is on her skill 2. So we're really using skill 1s and skill 3s for clashing, and skill 2 for on-sided. I got it. Because it has to be on hit. So it's an interesting idea, all right? I'll say you that much. All right. We already spent 70 minutes on this. Let's deploy some support for these guys, shall we? So we are a Tremor Rupture team with some charge on the side. How can Yiseng help us? Charge Tremor and Rupture. Does she not even spend her charge too? That's a good question. She doesn't. Yep, she does not use charge at all. She only gains charge, add charge count, and reuse the skill, and gain charge. She just accumulates charge for no reason. She literally just accumulates charge for no reason whatsoever. Right, how can Yiseng help this? There is a good side for having charge without using it, is that we can proc certain ego gifts quite often. So I do believe W Corp cleanup can help us here. It's a... Ally has charge, deals more damage against targets that have rupture based on rupture on target. That's extra damage, I'll take it. And it's always going to be Rhodia, so it's going to benefit her greatly. As for Faust, we have W Corp as well. Let's check it out. One ally with the lowest max HP gains 1 charge count. The ally with the lowest max HP of our team currently is Gregor, I believe. Not you. That is Gregor. And Gregor does consume charge. All right. Then we're just gonna take W Corp agent. There we go. And let's make the game 1 charge count. We could also take Heisho Mao branch. We have but 1 sinner that actually has gluttony, so no, we can't. What of a joke. We also have multi-cracker officer representative. One ally that has the least charge count kills his enemy. The ally gains 3 charge count once per turn. Per ally as a consumer gain charge. Envy we don't generate, but it is we do generate. Rodion has an envy skill 3, so we can take multi-crack. Ah, Josette, here we go. Did I do that correctly? No, it's more like over here. Trying to imitate the whale. Something like this. Here we go. All right. Let's see. Don Quixote. Again, we're Rupture, we're Tremor, and we are Charged. We have Heisho is always good because of defense level down. We have T-Corp class 3 collection staff, which gives us low speed, take damage, then Tremor, then present more damage, damage resistance, and I like it. What else we have here? Ah, someone is calling me to scam me. Now, there's a good chance we're not gonna finish this. Hello? There's a good chance we're not gonna... God damn, I knew it was a scam call. Why did I even pick it up? Anyway, there's a good chance we're not gonna finish this on time today. So bear with me, please. If we don't finish on time, we'll simply read the book and finish it. In any case, this tier continues to befuddle me because it's potentially very powerful, but requires a unit with sinking and resonance of sloth, which is kind of an unusual combo. We do have the District 20 Eurodiv, which I'm gonna have to use it someday. One of the players getting one more tremor count for the skills requiring effect. It's for stealth tremor when it's trying to become charged, so we can't use that. We do have Heisho to give us haste, and we have Encorp to give us tremor on getting hit, I believe. When ally would use the point one hit by get hit by an enemy, inflicts one tremor against the attacker. What about W Corp? What W Corp can offer us? When ally with the lowest max HP defeats an enemy, they gain 3 charge count. This is gonna supercharge Gregor. Let's supercharge Gregor. Get that boy supercharged. As for Honglu, how can you help us, Honglu? We are Tremor, and you have Eurodiv. This one's perfect, actually. We're taking Eurodiv Honglu to give us a chance for double Tremor Burst. But it is a Sloth Resonance. Yeah, we have Sloth Resonance. Or Heathcliff. Heathcliff has a multi-crack officer fixer, which deploy max charge count plus 5. This is completely worthless for us because, well, the number one that is going to be deployed is Rhodia, and Rhodia doesn't consume charge, so with the slow speed gains through haste, next turn defeat at 5 charge count at the target common phase. It just gives us haste. Haste is nice, but not that essential. We could also take the classic Think Tank Gang Leader for extra damage, but I'd rather play with the double Tremor because Rhodia gains more damage every time she Tremor bursts. So the more she bursts busty, the more damage she does. Right, let's check W Corp here. Couple start users or gains 1 charge count plus max. Add this for charge barrier. What does our Corp do again? It's sinking. He does sinking stuff. Let me just pop it in from here. There you go. Oh, ally with the most charge when you use base attack skill that gains charge count. Use 15% damage. Use it. It's the final coin. Well, I thought it was sinking because it's a sinking unit. I was confusing with his active one. Yeah, this is not great. The most charge when you use the base attack skill against charge count is 15%. I'd rather have the 20% more damage on all attacks of the ally with the most SP instead of like 50% more damage on the final coin of a attack. Yeah. Anyway, for Rupture Tremor, we took Ophius. He has surprisingly good Tremor in it. Ally with his fastest speed, clash power to skill to apply Tremor potency or count. Here we go. That's gonna probably be Rhodia again. For ish, we do have Lobotomy Sloshing. I guess. Yes. For our Boy Wonder, I'm not going to take the Maracas this time. We do have inflict defense level down on enemies with Rupture or inflict additional Rupture. Let's see. Inflicts 1 more Rupture potency with attack or counter skills. One moment. What the fuck? Anyway, whatever. This is job related stuff. I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Don't technological barriers these run, alright? No, I have not. Only on the previous mirror dungeon where there's an achievement for it. They are up next, by the way. They are up next. One ally with the highest counter HP, inflict one more rupture potency with attacks and counter skills. The ally with highest HP is going to be Merso, so can't use that. So we're gonna go for the defense level down. Unless we want more protection. No. What about Molar Boltworks? What did you do again? What does it mean if you control of effects of their attacks? That one's pretty good. And we do have the glue. There we go. For Otis. Otis Autismo. We do have the Hateful Mal Pack branch, which gives us more damage if we're faster on a Gluttony Resonance. And we have Gluttony only from Gregor. And it is his skill 1. Molar Office? The most tremor caught game one tremor ask for self tremor. I have a soft spot for Sloshmail. It's difficult to have a hard spot in her because she's wearing the fat suit. Let's see. We don't have anyone managing our sanity, so I'm thinking I'm gonna take the ring point list for sanity management, for at least to a degree. And we haven't put any eagles yet. I'm just gonna equip then Crushbound, Pursuance, and Regret. For Gregor, we take Brilliant Glory, Christmas Nightmare, Leatherdane, and Lantern. And for Rhodia, we take Pursuance from his Corrosion, and well, we only have really the choice between Swing and Desire and Indicant's Trial. Take Indicant's Trial. All right, that's our tea. We used 27 minutes of our allocated time. Let's get back into the dungeon and move quickly. I'm not going to be reviewing the team real quick. Go away, bot. My game is lagging. The server is against me. I do believe everyone's trying to connect at the same time to see if Ricardo Heathcliff has already dropped, which is a possibility. Oh man, are we gonna hit a new peak just because of Ricardo Heathcliff? It's very likely that we will. Right, let's deploy these goobers and let's be quick about it. Are they leveled up? Yes, they are. Let's go. We're gonna take Favor of the Nebulae, and that's it. They almost have a full team here, so we don't have to worry too much about things. Now, everyone inflicts tremor in some way, shape, or form, so we're going for Tremor Reverberation. For our starter gift, we are going to take Kaleidoscope. It's good because we are from the same team. We could also... I'm going to take Phlebotomy, as usual, and our Bluesy Politer. I want to take Special Contract because of the tremor that we're going to be applying, but... What do we want from here? I guess we could just take nothing. I look up at the Steam page of Limbus Company to read the new things that I added to Rhodia's new Eagle. Is very good support eagle that heals up health and special condition for Wrath or Lust Res. Interesting. Can't wait to shard her and have it on my team. We could just take the T-Corp badge, and since it only have 3 units, it will save them from death once. Yeah, I'm gonna take that. Right, I forgot to change the loading screen. What a shame. Okay. The middle hit cliff on the charge and better means he uses certain skill. Yeah, I've seen that too. Right, we are resistant to slash and fatal against spears. I am tempted to go over here because it's their thematic, you know, it's their team. It's their team pack. Let's go over to the team pack. Right. Let's see how many pages we can collect before the server shuts down and I am forced to read the book. And much like I said last time, this is basically Library of Ruin, and we are killing things for pages of books. Now, let me just sit down here. Might have to go to the bathroom at some point. All right. So, Merso just does its thing. Gregor, we have to watch out for his self-charge, 5 tremor target on skill 3. And Rhodia is a mystery. Let's just rock and roll. Let's just get it going. Let's just get it going. Boom. I do like his skill tree. It feels kind of weird, but it's an interesting one because it when he bashes someone over the head, it just dunk, dunk, dunk. And you know, we have the final super tremor burst at the end. So if everything goes right, if you catch long fights, we're gonna see Rhodia's charge count go up into the stratosphere because she doesn't use charge. All in all, I think they're kind of boring. I do like Merso Rosespanner, mostly because his skill 2 has attack power down, and that is invaluable. mostly attack power down. There is like a few handful of units that has an attack power down debuff that I apply on the enemy. One of them is Honglu, base Honglu, mind you. And you might think it's just one attack power up, power down. What's the difference? Well, in a game where if you win a clash by a number, you delete someone's coin, it's very important, especially outside of the mirror dungeon. The difference between winning a clash against a Savage Tiger Slayer of Perfected Flurry of Blades and losing it, as it sometimes is by a single power. And by just hitting the guy with no conditions, you just apply one power down on him, and that's it. You won the clash. Certain egos, base egos, also do that. Most notably Yi Sang and Merceau. Although Yi Sang is on the same turn and Merceau is on the next turn, so you can either preempt it, mess around with speed values and hit them with the crow's eye view to inflict power down, or with Merceau prepare for the next turn. Lots of big resonance here. I like the big resonance. Oh, could go for big resonance. I am fairly sure we're not going to be able to complete this mirror dungeon today, but we're going to count it as completed because, you know, it's not that difficult to complete 5 floors. It's just, you know, just checking out how they go and how they handle the fight up to there. We had some surprisingly hard fights in the mirror dungeons before with these incomplete teams. Fights we have to get our noggin jogging, right? I'm a big fan of Rosespanner. Mirror is such a funny thing with his up-tie story and pass out showing he'll overwork type poor guy. His kit is weird and odd, but it's fun. Shinli got nerfed. He got nerfed? Oh, I didn't know that. Why would they nerf a 0-0 ID, man? But yeah, no, it also completely falls in team with the character and the character of the book. I don't know if you're keeping up with the reading, Tyler, because, you know, I know I'm not the best, like, audiobook reader out there, but Merceau would 100% do what he did in here. Man, I actually do need to go to the bathroom. I might have to run there. Because again, we have to complete this in less than an hour and a half. Alright, pray. Gamble with sloshing. Ah, she didn't slosh with the best of them.
이게 걸리적거려서 그런 거예요.
팔 배터리 교체 했었나?
Alright, no, before something happens, I'm going to the back room, and I'm gonna use precious stream time to do that. Oh, drones. Let me just set the first orders here. I kind of want to make a chainsaw team one day with IDs that have the most multi-hits, multi-coin attacks, and use the facade for, you know, chainsaw to the max. I also been thinking about getting, I think I talked about it last stream, Pinky Apprentice Sinclair as a facade to use it on Blade Lineage. I'm also a big fan of their weapons, of the Rosespanner. They look very clunky, very heavy machinery. I like their style. Get ring with it. Right, I'll be right back. I have to go.
한 대 패도 되지? 뭐 말 안 해도 알아서 잘하구만.
Oh, taken care of. Now, I did something with my glasses. I think they got bent, which is bad because I only have these ones. I have to be very careful not to break them. If they do, I don't have another step. There we go, that's much better. That was still a little smudged up, hold on. I'm wasting time, I know. This is a lot better, holy shit. It's like, here's the thing, the sides of these glasses were a little too tight, so the lenses were curving inward, and I noticed this yesterday when I was trying to read, that everything was getting fuzzier and fuzzier. So there's the culprit. Alright, back to our dungeon to grind. Middle hit cliff is a burn bleed AD. Unbound skill from what I remember can inflict tremor and activate tremor burst. Yeah, I saw it too, I read the ID a little bit. Just like glanced over because people were talking about people were talking about it triggering tremor on the trailer, and I saw it too, and like, yeah, what the hell is that? And then there's the whole thing about he interrupting music, which was pretty cool. But he doesn't compare to triple status ID because he didn't one of his three skills. I don't think a triple status ID would be even good because I don't think you can get enough people off either. You can get all three tremor, all three ailments unit together to make use of all of the gifts from the dungeon. So speaking of, once again, I had to go into the Forsaken Hellscape that is Twitter to, you know, publish that I was going to do the stream and all that. And there was already someone asking for a nerf for Rufo when she doesn't need it. All right, let's create the emergency badge for full revives. You don't have to worry about dying anymore. And let's increase the speed. In any case. And then that person that asked for nerfs for Rufo said that she relied too much on protection, and he was fighting her on normal. Ah, mirror match, but they have one more guy. When are we gonna get the guy with a hammer and an axe? Oh well, and of course she starts with more. Well, too bad. No, it's Pierce. But you know what? Crush Bound Pass will do the job. Ah, I like this ego. Bang! Oh yeah! Ah, Tails. Such a cool looking eagle, man. Alright, we evened the odds. I love Limbus Company because we're literally skinwalkers. Here we are stealing the likeness and countenance of random individuals from the city to use it in battle. One day you're gonna be walking around the city, you know, a grade 8 fixer, walking around doing your thing, and then suddenly someone from the middle is gonna say, "Hey, I remember you. You were fighting our guys over at U-Corp," and they're gonna beat the shit out of you. And it was just a Limbus Company character that took your ID and used it against the middle. Right, faster. I don't even keep track because all their mechanics are so automatic. There's really not a lot to talk about it. Bonk, 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 bonk. super tremor burst.
무시여.
You're losing a lot of sediment there, buddy.
맞았냐? 내 자국 없이 쪼개.
Anyway, I am going to take a page out of Merso's book and start smoking because it has been quick. And I don't want to lean into superstition, but every time the moon is full, I feel like shit. My mood is down. I almost didn't stream today, and it is hot as hell today. It is literally Merso's book right now. The heat is overwhelming me. I'm in a foul mood. The moon is full. It's kind of like a sun, but reverse. And I'm gonna start smoking. And I was drinking coffee too, so I'm getting very, very French as we speak. So let's take the two rupture gifts, because we also use rupture, and rupture is very good. And for our next pack, we are going for emotional indolence, because it's a sloth, and we have some sloth on us. Let's update the combat node to 3. We have 3 pages collected for our reading. Let's take the upper path. It's Stone Tomb. I'll take it. Faster, 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 faster. God damn it, Rhodia.
맞는 공부가 없었다고.
Alright, up to the next challenge.
시작합니다.
It's a good thing it's gonna be this Friday is gonna be a holiday, huh? Get me a good old rest, and depending on how things go, I might actually pick up one of my streams to trim it down, actually make a video out of it. I was thinking about doing the Mexican boy, do a little beam collage, montage, whatever, see how it goes. Put this to practice my video making skills.
맞았냐? 그렇게 하죠. 내 자국 없이 쪼개고 있어.
There is one video I want to be wanting to do as well, and I've been pondering how to do it, and I like your guys' opinions. So I want to make a video explaining offense level, defense level, and all that stuff. And some of the mechanics that aren't properly explained on Limbus, although I did hear that they added a tutorial for that. But here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna find myself like a teacher's, a scientist, like a white coat, you know, scientist's coat. And I wanted to do it like I was actually giving a class with a blackboard on the back and using a little stick to point towards things like, this here, this here, this here. But sadly, my room here does not have enough space for it. Or else I would do it live and just do it as I was a teacher in the class, as I have done that before and have experience with that. Instead, I had the idea of taking a picture of me torso up with that doctor's coat and try to do like a stop motion thing. I'll take various shots of me like pointing to one thing, pointing to other, mouth open, mouth closed, a different expression, and you know, just cycle through then as the video goes and put a voice over these animations and low frame animations, and then just kind of work for that. I think it would work best. I think it would work pretty good. I'm gonna try and do it, see if it works, and we'll see. I need to put some video out, that's the thing.
한건 했고.
하나 마무리했습니다.
This is unfortunately my cheap cigar. It's not the good ones I'm used to smoke. Because I don't have the space for a proper like montage of like a blackboard and like do drawings, so I'm just gonna do what we can. I already have an effect here on the screen because you see there's like CRT lines going through, a little fuzziness. That's effect I put on the camera, so I can disable. Then let me just show you how it looks without filters. There we go. This is without any effect on the camera. The camera just froze now. Lovely. There we go. It's fluid now. You see my movements. There's no frame delay this time because I have one for CRT fuzz. I have one for color correction, one for frame skipping. So let me put that back on. There we go. So I was trying to work on these. What's it called? There, I could get a rupture gift. Oh, I gotta try to work on this like low frame rate kind of thing. Mijam Miera, I have a burning question. How do you look so familiar and unfamiliar at the same time? All right, let me try and make an impression here. I'm not very good at this voice, and I never really tried for real. Sound familiar? Probably not, because my voice is horrible. I never did practice Dr. Robotnik.
이런 건
Oh yeah, he did. The mic doesn't like that. Sorry. Ooh, UPS system. I love me an UPS system. Let's see. Give me a refresh. We gotta go fast. We gotta go hard. Midwinter Nightmare. Fuck it, I'll take it. And the Gregor replacement. Yes. And we're good to go. We're good to go. We're good to go. One day I'll do a proper Dr. Robotnik impression, because a lot of people come say here to say I look like Eggman.
돈 벌러 가자.
Which is, I'll take it. I'll take that as a compliment. Eggman is a fantastic character. Yeah. The glasses, the bald head. I know. You can say I'm bald. I chose to be bald. That's the thing. That's something one of my friends won't accept is that I chose to be bald. If I get close to the camera, you can see the hair is already growing back up. I chose to be, because I already had short hair. I had long hair at some point. I decided, hey, I never had no hair. Let's give it a try, and I liked it. Problem is, I have to shave it. I do give that vibe. One of my friends once said that whenever we play games together, God, these clashes are horrid. One of my friends said that whenever I play co-op games with him, you know when there's an enemy coming near you and you get like a little marker on the screen showing it, no, not when an enemy is close to you. You know when you get shot in the FPS and it shows you where the bullets came from? And sometimes there is one with the like there's an enemy behind you. He says that every time he plays a co-op game with me, he sees that appearing on his screen whenever I get close to his position. Oh, we're paralyzed to hell and back. Right? These clashes are horrid, man. These are dominating. Got a pursuance going. I have no tremor on you? Did you accuse you? I like me glasses. Just now that they recently have been causing some problems. These are prescription glasses, proper prescription glasses. That's not. They're not just sunglasses that I decided to use. Oh yeah, Rosespanner does exist, and they are not good. They have some debuffs going on and some potential damage on Rosespanner Rhodia, and they have strong tremor bursts, I guess. Because Rhodia can tremor burst several times, and doing so, she ramps up damage. But the problem is her normal clashes, even her skill tree is kind of doo-doo. And the Rosespanner were conceived before a time that team leaders existed. Otherwise, we'd have Rhodia actually giving buffs to these two clowns. See, if you look here, she'll gain 2 blunt damage up next turn because of her passive, because she triggered Tremor Burst twice. Rosespanner used to be on our right to 0 for Tremor, but NPM realized it wasn't actually doing the same as the hero's kit. That hit Gauze and he got fixed over a year later. Ah. Alright, let's just win rate this one, because that two things aren't going to do much. There we go. Essentially, it's the only non-exclusive Tremor ID Gregor has. Oh, well, if you like the chainsaw arm, and I know someone that does a lot, you can always get a facade for him now. Let's just wing rate through this guy, because there's really not much to do here. Most of his potent infliction was actually doing count instead, which was much stronger. Now he was just with no count on his kit. Yeah. Boink, boink, boink.
이거는
I mean, they should have kept it as the count beast, honestly, because again, the idea that I have, I don't know if the director has the same idea, is that 0/0 IDs should be supports, not mainline fighters. Like, they should set up like fragile, they should set up count, but they shouldn't do a lot of damage. The only do damage are the 0/0s, because they're like the mainline fighters. Unless there's some sort of strange support 0/0.
그렇지. 어제 톱날을 열심히
Very
쏘는
nice.
보람이 있네.
The skill tree randomly decreases tremor count by 3 for very little benefit anyway, so I think it'd be fine. Yeah. The only reason it decreases is because he has that extra stagger burst by charge count. So if you have really high charge on him, which won't happen outside of the mirror dungeon, mind you, he could potentially do a lot of tremor raising, tremor blasts the guy and staggers him immediately. But that's in a land of fantasy, honestly. We could take full stop by a bullet, but we are weak to pierce, aren't we not? We are fatal against pierce, that would be suicide. It's capped at 50% anyway, though. Yeah. There's also that. Let's go over here, flying flowers. Combat node, another one cleared, 4 pages to read, and a mirror dungeon needs to go fast. We are already 8 hours in the stream. Let's see where we're gonna go. We're gonna go here. With 3 characters, we actually can do unfocused encounters, and we do have the T-Corp badge to keep us alive, so we can actually take unfocused encounters. K-Corp again, I see. Well, no time like the present, so let's present the present.
가자. 걸려라.
But apologies if I'm not too talkative today. It's just that today has been kind of a shit day, honestly. There's the reason why. Again, this entire week has been incredibly weird for me. A lot of things happening. Not gonna go into it, but a lot of things happening. Hope your weeks are going back better than mine. Couldn't go to the gym, not because I didn't want to. It's just that I literally was feeling so exhausted I couldn't get out of bed. Couldn't go to my Japanese class either. But I'm not here to trauma dump. I'm just mentioning that I'm a little quiet right now because not a lot to talk about other than watch the coins flip and be happy. Middle hit cliff can actually help other middles. Yeah, I read his kit. I run the middle sometimes. They are very fun to run, Moises and Hiki. You have seen me run the middles several times, which baffles me that I taught people on a Discord that I am for the Discord Project Moon tabletop, saying that the middle were bad at the mirror dungeon. I was thinking, what reality do we live in, buddy? That the middle is bad on the mirror dungeon. Speaking of the middle, look over here. Right under me. Anyway. Hello, Acidic Trauma. Welcome. I really dislike unfocused encounters. They are very nice eye candy when, you know, you have like a full team going at it and it's just people fighting each other. It's like really nice eye candy. But honestly, I don't like it because it detracts a bit from what tactics you can do. There's still some fidangling you can do with skills, blocks to redirect certain attacks and do certain things, but focus encounters kind of just suck. There are many types of already. Support, shitty ID, and others. Why Sinclair is shitty enemy who does little enough to help the team in a meaningful way. Multi-crack will benefit charter IDs with both electricity. Chefs together despite being shitty ID is also a support ID. Stick in the middle items will be more fun to run after this. They were already good. They were already good. I would say that's why Sinclair has one use, is that he buffs anyone that uses the defense level up. Any other Zwei ID, if Zwei, what's his face? Zwei Sinclair is on the field, his skill true gives a lot of defense level up. Things like things like Zwei Ishmael gains a lot of like offense level based on her defense level or something like that, if I recall. Or her conditionals are about having defense level, so Sinclair gives a really good support on that regard. And it's because it's really not properly explained that defense levels actually reduce the damage you take, so it's always nice to have. Talk about my reaction to Sinclair as an example. Yeah, yesterday I did good. Mostly because I have an ego to make him, you know, called to give him shields, infinite shields, because he has access to that, so he can run a solo pretty decently with that ego, as long as he can keep proccing it. And he also has an evade, so that solo he can do pretty well. And he's a tank ID. He's not really a damage dealer. He has nearly 300 HP and an incredibly low stagger bar. And he keeps lowering that stagger bar even further, so you really can't stagger him properly. Oh, you're talking about Zwei Sinclair, the other one, the earlier one. Yeah, he is a meat shield. Plain and simple, he is literally a meat shield.
돈 벌러 가자.
He has aggro on self, if I recall. And he gains defense levels as he's getting hit, if I recall correctly. He's literally a meat shield. Alright, you fatties, are here. You guys are weak to Pierce, right? Do we have Pierce? We have a little bit of Pierce. We do have a bit of Pierce. Christmas Nightmare is blunt, isn't it? No, it's a slash for some reason. Let's go with Pierce. I was about to read you the tail. Shish kebab. This is foreshadowing. I just realized that Lantern is foreshadowing. Hold on, we're gonna use it again. We're gonna use it again to realize how foreshadowing this is, and I'm gonna waste time on the stream again to do that because again we're on the timer. Let me just get the image here. All right, spoilers for Canto 9 coming up. So if you haven't finished Canto 9, don't look at it. Same thing has happened. How interesting. How far do these go? Do they plan this in advance? I cut apples and I make Italian kebab as well. Anyway, you guys are not doing good damage. We need some damage buff for you. Although, to be honest, the mishmash of ID supporting you, they're not giving you a lot of damage. I didn't review them, but we're mostly just giving more status ailments. Zwei Faust isn't that bad if you're new to the game or just want someone to suck up damage more. That's the Zwei in general. The Zwei, being the little rent-a-cops that they are all about, you know, taking damage and surviving. Just staying alive, you know? You hit them several times and you do 1 damage every time. Nice. I think that was the coin reuse from her skill 2. So that's how sometimes I put her on a tremor team just because. And I never realized why she could do that. But now that I'm looking at it, yeah, you can just do that. And it was, the conditions for it again was 3 charge count. And she currently has, well, lots of charge count. Because again, she does not consume charge. So once she got her charge rolling, her skill 2 is going to be reusing that 2 coins every time. Interesting guys, they generate charge that they don't use.
건 했고.
Yeah, she just baseball bats and out of the park. Very nice, very good. Anyway, moving on. Combat node complete. Another page acquired. Let's keep going. Let's keep going fast. Mechanical every is why Rodian's dog shit. She's something. She exists, honestly. I've used her passive, support passive once. Alright, let's see what we got here. Let's enhance some stuff here first. Let's enhance our UPS system. Let's enhance our reverberation because it's very important. Let's upgrade our nebulizer for criticals. And I'd like to have the risk gauntlets for damage because we are very lacking in damage right now. So I am willing to sacrifice this with a little bit of wish making, a little spice on top. Let's see if we can get lucky. Yes, we are lucky. Always gamble on nothing. Let's sell some items here that we don't need. We need all of these. No, actually we don't need this. It's a pierce. And then enhance this. Sorry if I'm going too fast. It's because we gotta go. We have less than an hour to finish the next 2 floors. She could have told me really fun, so it's a shame Project Moon didn't like her for some reason. Yeah.
팔 배터리 교체 했었나?
The South section is why are prime candidates for Uptype 5 to give them assist defense. Since they're supposed to be the meat shields, imagine if they have assist defense. You could literally have a VIP, like, you could literally have a solo character. You could literally have a solo character with choose Y South sections, and all they do is do assist defenses. They do no damage. They just do get down Mr. President over and over. And the solo character can just keep fighting. He literally has a pack of bodyguard with him. That would be cool. Look at the Kuroko McGregor kit again, hoping to manage enhancement. Yeah, he has coin power down, which is incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. We got something that has like a shit ton of coins, or have coin Ryu, and suddenly their power is decreased by 1. Who's pathetic? Yeah, it's consequence of older IDs. Different mindset for a different time. All right, who's going to give them their thingies for the statue? Here we go. And there we go. And Rodon has to do the test right after. When he has attack power down, his support passive makes leading enemies get offense level down. What a masterpiece. Yeah, offense level down. But a lot of people don't give credit to defense level down as they should, but they're so powerful as they are. It's not as several times during the stream I have to explain, like, if you're going for mountain trials, don't ever take coin power up for the enemies because you're potentially giving them several ranks of power. Right, Rhodia, go do your thing. Good. Now he has the 11 power down. Automod, I allow this bad word on my chat. I don't be a whore for good support passes, so I'll increase my opinion of the idea a lot. Yep, support passes are very fun because it's what remained of the Ruina attribution system for passives. Because if you do a solo or a duo, you are basically giving 11 passives to one character, or 6 or 5 to one of the two. That's why solo runs tend to be interesting, because you have 12 passives helping you out, plus all the ego gifts that can affect a single character. Alright, let's keep going. She's probably charged up, so she's gonna be reusing that coin a lot. So strike away, Queen. Where did you get that true power down, Rhodia? Reuse your coin. Reuse your coin. It has to be hit heads. Where are you losing clashes. Or whatever. Rosespanner doesn't have the best clash, and they have good, probably maybe damage. They're just very underwhelming, honestly. Oh, it's no wonder they're just like a slap job office that was hired to try and kill us and failed pathetically at it. So, what am I expecting out of them? People only remember Rosespanner really exists because they fight him on the mirror dungeon, even so they question, who the hell are these guys? That's the level of office we're dealing with. Very nice. Alright, that's another combat node complete. We are on to floor 4. We have 2 more floors to complete in less than an hour. Let's take more Starlight. And let's take Spice Bush because it's good. And this one. Yeah, this one. I think Rosespanner exists because the things the representative guy is hot, actually. It has its appeal for some people, I will say that much. See if we can get a long pack here. No long pack. This will be a mistake because I have Midwinter Nightmare. I don't want to go to Certain Word or Dusk of Ember either. I'm choosing a pack. All these options are terrible. But let's go. We have to go fast here, and I'm going to be using my limited Starlight. I'll recover it later. Love coin logic in the game. In random clashes, my signal almost always slip head, but when it's using eagle reuse, I love a lot of damage, always slips tail. Yeah, it's luck. Again, the consequence of how the game is. The sanity system. I talked about the sanity system a lot. I don't like it. But I see how it would create problems if everything was random. But then again, you had the tools to not be random. Oh, I had that happen to me a lot, Mijamiera. It happened to me a lot. Let's use Wing Beat. Oh no, she didn't get it. All right, Merceau, I believe in you. Good job, Merceau. You didn't get turn into meat. Rebates token, illusory hunt, and we have very bad on money right now. This office is falling apart, man. Hello, Funky Girl Gamer. What a funky girl name you got. Welcome to the stream. This is your first time here. We are doing a mirror dungeon up to 4-5. And then we're going to be reading a book, or finishing a book for Merceau. We'll read 1 page per combat node completed in the mirror dungeon. What characters do we use, my brother? I think you're better off saying what characters I don't, because I use all of them. I literally have all of them, and right now we're using the Rosespanner workshop. Which are a bit underwhelming, I'll say you that much. And yes, Caleb, I do agree with you. I do like the everyman, you know, the less popular office feel they have going on. I do like that, and that's why I want for double IDs of the average Joe, so we get more, what's it called, more lore on the normal people of the city. Because one thing I like to point out is that because all of the... thank you. I love my bald head too. One of the things that we get from the Project Meme universe is because all other games focus on the extreme side of things. Like Library of Ruina, every time we get a new guest, it's someone that fights, right? Someone, it's not like a Joe Maxlow from the agricultural office or something like that. It's always a fighter, a guy with a background, because the library needs the like back, right? But because of that, since we're always focusing on the extraordinary of the setting with Lobotomy Corp, Limbus to a certain extent, and Library of Ruina, it gives the Warhammer 40k effect, where you see through memes, you see through the stories, that it's this unending gloom of misery and mope and suffering, and there is no space for a normal life in the setting, you know? And honestly, now that we're looking more into Limbus, seeing that, like, in the latest interval, we literally go to an office block and it's just a normal office with people, you know, probably suffering at the hands of middle managers and Excel spreadsheets. And we see that, you know, life goes on. Life goes on. Do you have any ideas you recommend for the exchange shop for a newbie? If you can get Lord Lou is really good, but I think right now he's from the previous season, so he's inaccessible. All the Kurokumo IDs are fun, but focus on getting Ishmael and Heathcliff because the two of them together can handle most things in the game. Who else? The middle IDs are very good. All of them. So you can. The advice I give you is to get a concise team that can work off of each other. They can synergize. So try to see which teams you like the most. I like the Heishos, oh I like the middle, oh I like this or that, and try to focus on them. If you unfortunately, if you want to have like an easy time with the story and just enjoy the story, you can always get one of the nurse fathers, and their goal is any semblance of challenge. And you can also get Lamp Grado. Thank you for reminding me of him. All I want now is Prince Marcel to complete my blood fainting. He will come to you, Moisés, I'm sure. Up until some time ago, Funky Girl Gamer, I would have told you that it doesn't really matter which ID you take, with some exceptions, to play through the story, because really there's nothing that is power creeping, but now there is very clear and potent power creep that the point you're gonna have no problem with the game if you pull the right IDs or get in the exchange shop. So I would recommend getting something like Lamp Gregor, so like Caleb said. My personal bias would tell you to get Kurokumo Heathcliff and Kurokumo Ishmael, because they are very good, and if you can get the rest of the Kurokumos, you have a very powerful team in your hands, because they can get unbreakable coins, they can ignore stagger, they apply a shit ton of debuffs. I really like them, and I'm very biased towards them. But then there's always the nuclear option. If you just want to get through the game, get a Nurse Father. There are plenty of options, but my biggest recommendation is learn the game system and build a focus team. Like, know what your team can do before you commit to one thing. Can the base LCB ID team complete in Kento 9? I'm fairly sure they can. They have some pretty good heavy hitters there. I will probably not attempt it, but I'm pretty sure they can. When I was new, people told me to start off with the bleed or burn team since they were easy keywords to learn. It was a couple of years ago. None of this is hold up nowadays. Well, I know bleed does. Yeah, bleed is just very simple. There's not really much to consider about bleed. You hit the enemy, he's bleeding. Every time he tosses a coin, he takes damage. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Just keep hitting the enemy. Because it's what you expect. Just slice someone with a sword, they're gonna be bleeding. So there's really nothing that crazy new about it. Burn, same thing. But burn is outside, except if you're using like magic bullet Altis, you are going to be waiting until the turn ends to deal damage, and unless it's an enemy with multiple body parts, it's going to be capped at 99 damage. I feel like at this point, Bleed's probably still a good option, since a new player could also absolutely pull a strong Bleed at least, since there's so many now. That would encourage them to get more. Yeah, let's not forget that Callisto Hornblue is a Bleed ID. You see, Moisés on YouTube, there's something I wish the game would do, is the ability to lock IDs to a certain level, so that I could go back and replay the Cantos with all base sinners. That would be fun. We all love Mr. 500 attack rate. Yeah, it's fun, it's nice. It has a lot of swag. And all of the Nurse Fathers, he's the one that fucked up the least. It's just, I'm not like absolving him of what he did, but maintenance in 48 minutes. Change potion. Yes, I know. That's why we're hurrying it up. That's why we have to go fast. Anyway, I'm not what's called forgiving it. I'm not, you know, absolving him for what he did. But Callisto, I understand, was the least worst of the Nurse Fathers in terms of being a parent. It's just that his notion of being a parent is the notion of a maestro from the ring. Oh yeah, the charge is also great. If you take multi-crack, we saw can roll absurdly high with very little setup. In any case, Callisto tried to be a good father with like a good father, a good teacher for what's it called for Ryoshu, but his notions of being a parent is notions of being a ring parent. So gore slop, turning people into artwork, and getting them started on art early is normal for him, but not normal for a, you know, however years old Ryoshu was at the time.
제대로 찝었군. 자, 한 건 했고.
New employees play the fucking game and do a gimmick. Well, it is already a term. Sorry to... We already apply the slop word as an adjective and adverb to everything, so we're gonna be seeing it a lot. We just add as a like suffix to a word, and there we go. You have. Callisto is even better than Matthias. I'm shocked he's got too many defenders. And the difference is that Matthias, as we saw, decided to, you know, go for the nuclear option once his daughter got beat up. It's the equivalent of a dad showing up to school to beat up the bully, but he's not just going to go talk to the bully or anything. He's going to beat him until he's an inch of his life.
제대로 찝었군.
Ryoshu's mom was absolutely the worst, but Ryoshu's mom also had some reason to do what she did. Now, again, I'm not absolving any of them. They are all terrible. Let's not grade which one's better, but I do believe Callisto tried his best. It's just that his idea of a parent was... that Matthias, that's not Matthias, that's Valentina. That's Matthias was just a dad in quotation marks that shows up with a shotgun when you have a boyfriend. So yeah, Matthias is the dad with a shotgun. You have a boyfriend over, and I just want to talk to him. I'm gonna talk to him. Don't worry, darling. I'm just gonna talk to him real quick. Anyway, Callisto tried to be a dad, but he's out of touch, and he doesn't realize that the things he does are terrifying and horrible, and he thought he was normal. So, not absolving him, but understanding that where he's coming from, he had some genuine love for Ryoshu, to the point like he was teaching her and encouraging her to go after her own art movement, to, you know, pursue the arts. But he was too lost in his own sauce to realize that she had other plans. There's a difference. While Callisto is trying to be the teacher, a proper mentoring figure, Matthias is only doing so he feels good himself. Matthias doesn't really care. For Matthias, Ryoshu is like one of the many dolls he has in his collection. It's all to make him look good. When he killed the teachers and removed the shoulder of a child back in the cutscene we got recently, he words are like, isn't that good? No, look how cool I am. I am the best dad, aren't I? And then he'll give you a bunch of gifts, but never really be present there as a parent. He's an absent parent that tries to compensate for his absence with material goods. We've seen this kind of stereotype before. In any case, it's not really a double standard, it's just all of them are terrible. But all of them are terrible in different ways. We have the abusive parent that is constantly drunk, that is Valentina. We have the mom that doesn't want to be a mom, that is Ryoshu's mom. We have Rian, which is doesn't really give a shit about all this and is fake as hell. And we have, I'm missing someone. Matthias, which is the absent father that tries to buy love, compensate his absence, and not being really there with material goods. We have Valentina, the drunk, Rian, which is the guy that a puppet, Callisto, and Ryoshu's mom. Oh yeah, and here's the thing. Ryoshu's daughter, Absolute Supreme, showing the cute showed gore for his... Yeah, that's the thing I'm talking about. For him, for Callisto, and for their kids of the ring, as we saw from the cutscene, this is normal life for them. Not for the rest of the city, and certainly not for Ryoshu. But for him, and for the other kids from the ring, this is normal. This is like, oh, thank you, Dad, you make my dog a sword. That was horrible. That was absolutely horrible. You expose the child to gore. You are correct there. The problem is, what I'm trying to say is that for him, he was doing the right thing. All of them believe they're doing the right thing, as most parents do. It's not purely white and black here. And you also have to consider another thing. Let's go for Morbius. Hold on. Where did Christmas? Oh, time. Okay, we have time. What do we have here? Tangling Lust. Refresh. Line 1 Madness. I don't know if they can beat the Clashes on Madness. In any case, one thing that I wanted to say about things on the Project Moon universe is that it's difficult to compare them to our idea of morality in our world, because in the city, violence is not only commonplace on every day, it is not only institutionalized, it is professionalized. Being a crazy ex-murderer in the city is not something you get persecuted for and then put into jail and get the electric chair. It is a career plan with business plans and options for retirement. You gather together in offices with people that are also crazy ex-murderers. You offer 2-for-1 execution services. You have a business suit. You have a business card. That is normal life in the city. And still life goes on despite all of these absurdities. And now for Callisto, which is, I'm not defending him again, but I see what he was trying to go for. What he did was an act of kindness. From his warped perspectives, from being a member of the ring, what he did was art. Like, I hear this, darling, your dog was suffering, so I turned him into a sword so he can be with you forever. So he's no longer suffering, he's alive still, see? The same way a parent would give a new dog to after running over the dog on the runway and say that he ran away and here's a new puppy for you. So into some aspect, there's I think that's a double standard here. One, it's not fair to apply our sense of morals to the morals of the city, because it's a different universe, although it looks very similar to us. But then again, what other morals can we compare than our own? We can understand where Callisto was coming from when he did the dog sword, sure, but doesn't mean we have to accept it or say that it was the right thing or it was good. It was horrible. Let's see. I feel like Matthias is a lot less compared to Callisto than people admit. Research feels quite similar to me. They will both do things that are kind of make research happen the same way, like doing ring art or going through a shopping trip. They deal with your position in absolutely wrong ways. You're upset, so I for that job. Her dog's will cure her teacher. Yeah. The middle, Matthias being from the middle, he has been raised, we assume, in a mindset. It's the culture shock. The House of Spiders was a massive den of culture shock, you know? So, one second, I'll get to your comments. The House of Spiders is a massive culture shock. So, for example, if you look at India, certain things that happen in India and are commonplace there and accepted as their society wouldn't fly over here in the Americas, like Brazil or North America. Same thing that things that happen in Japan wouldn't be accepted in other places, yada yada, it goes on and on. For Matthias, who was allegedly or assumedly raised by the middle, killing the teacher and removing the arm of a child that beat your child in a fight, even though the child said she took revenge on that already, was the correct thing to do. Much like, say, again, a father with a shotgun, or a father showing up to the school to beat up the bullies that beat up his son, and, you know, whipping out the belt. In some cultures, it is accepted to beat up your children when they misbehave, and others are considered horrible. And that's one of the facets of globalization we struggle every day in our rapidly expanding world of reality. Just we can understand where those things come from, like, in India they do this, in Pakistan they do that, in Russia they also do this, but in here we do things differently, you know? We can understand where do they come from with those things, but we don't mean we have to accept them. Same way we don't have to accept that, oh, you know, Callisto was just trying to be nice because it's the way he's was raised in the ring, you know. No, I don't have to accept it. I can understand he was trying to be nice. I can understand he was trying to be a good parental figure to Ryoshu, but he went it absolutely the worst way to do that, because the way he considers normal isn't really that normal, you know. Okay. I would choose a bad boss to do this, didn't I? Alright, I think it's pretty funny you mentioned being axe murderers having a career. Doesn't just rely on 3-axe office is just an actual thing. I think it's generally that. 3-axe office doesn't even use 3-axe, what frauds. Yeah, you also see on the Library of Ruin page saying like, hey, what's the difference between a fictor and an office worker? Well, not much really. Fictors have rules, contract and all that, and syndicates are syndicates. They're just thugs. A syndicate member can be a fixer can be a syndicate member, etc, etc. Yeah, so I don't see how it makes him worse than Callisto, who I was also tormenting Ryoshi's child. If he doesn't realize I'm probably not really getting put across the right way or missing yours. I just kind of got really sick of people going easy on Callisto, my bad. For make a view. No, don't worry about it. Like I say, I'm not. We're not grading them as worse to bad. I'm just saying that they're all bad. I explicitly say that they're all horrid parents. But I understand the way that they're trying to do things. I just think that Callisto is the least worst, even though it's Gorslop, the parent, over someone come and kill your classmates, you know? Because Matthias, because it's just how the middle works. Family is everything, right? She's going to corrode next turn. This is bad. Family is everything. Only the family of the middle matters. So if someone does something bad to you, you have to respond with maximum power. While look at them, all of them are bad, none of them are good. Callisto was trying to be a good parent. Matthias was only doing what he did because he felt good doing it. Not because he cared about Ryoshu. That's the main difference here. If he cared about Ryoshu, shit, what do I do here? None of the things he do because he cares about Ryoshu. In the way Callisto actually does, because he tries to encourage her to do her own art movement, etc. What Matthias does is to make himself feel good by making, look how cool I am. Aren't I the best? Look, I killed your bullies. I decapitated them in front of the entire class. Kill your teacher too. That's a cool ego. I like the way they just, oop. Gluppo's there too. We have another turn of this. I guess the main difference here is that Callisto has some degree of genuine love to Ryoshu, while Matthias is a facade. Because you saw that facade happening when he, you know, chopped Kira in half. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about Ryoshu's mother as well. There was a theory someone put out that Ryoshu's mother really didn't want Ryoshu to be like her, and so she tried the absolute best or worst, depending on how you see it, to get Ryoshu to hate her, so she wouldn't become like Ryoshu. But despite her attempt, Ryoshu got the same red eye implant kind of thing that she had. She started smoking like she did, and she wanted Ryoshu in a sort of like fucked up way, and probably harnessing some actually what's it called? And actually fucked up, actually some hatred, actually some fucked up way. He wanted Ryoshu to leave the House of Spiders by making it the most odious place possible for her, so she wouldn't stay there and try to find the hardest way to get out. And in a certain way it worked. Only Ryoshu fumbled up a little bit when she decided to use the Time Vault. Well, I didn't think Matthias loved Ryoshu, but a whole can of worms that took power against her. I think he only loved her as like a pet project. Like, this is the Muga that we're making. Like, ain't I cool for doing that? Because that's the entire core of his character. He killed his brothers, the middle brothers, to get a sword he wanted. Remember, let's never forget that he literally killed his own great brother or great sister of the middle because he wanted a sword. And then he has like rows upon rows upon rows of shelves full of action figures that haven't been unpacked because he likes collecting them, because he wants to feel good having them, and he never actually plays with any of them. The same way he never really cared for Kira. Kira was just another thing for him. Just another doll in the collection. Just another object for him to feel good about having. And the moment he was, you know, doing something else, he just chopped her in half. That's me. That's why I prefer out of them. Callisto is the, for me, still all of them bad, but Callisto I can sort of see who was coming from. That's that his methods were the absolute worst possible, because for him that is normal. Then there is Valentina. I don't think we need to talk about Valentina. It's pretty clear. It's a pretty common, unfortunately very common story in reality where, well, drunk father, drunk mother beat the shit out of their children, but then act like, forgive me, I love you and all that, and then, you know, the entire Lucio scene, the entire Italian kebab. Alright, time for the real test. It's time to face our karma, my little chudlings. And you are low on sanity. Why is that? Alright, neutral. Ding! Gotta recover your sanity one way or another, buddy. I understand that, but I don't really come to work works well. I mean, I started a whole lot, some not full of reading. I'm gonna tell you, the pink hairstyle was actually some lovely woman who loved Ryoshu deep down, but she cared enough not to want her to end up the same way. Yeah, no, she absolutely hated Ryoshu. She absolutely hated her, but she was still her mother to some degree. That it cannot be denied. She hated her because she, as a pinky, she probably prized her freedom above all else. And there is also some theories going around that she really wasn't on board of the idea of doing what she was doing there and being forced to carry baby. So take that as you will. Let's not forget that the through Yiseng nurse father Uptai, it was confirmed that Rian had a basement full of people, including children, in case he needed to fulfill a prescript. So there's also that. And she just wanted Ryoshu not to be the same as her, which unfortunately Ryoshu was turning out exactly like her. And that's a theory, that's not me see. Yeah, I do believe it's like that. She made it, not only she hated her, she made it as in the hospital as possible, so Ryoshu would breed as much resentment as possible against her, so that she would leave the House of Spiders some way or form. Because if you're clearly not welcome in one place, you're gonna try and get out, right? You're gonna try not to be like the person who is mistreating you. Unfortunately, parental bonds are very strong. I myself despise my own father. I'm not going to talk about too much personal things here. I despise my own father, but sometimes when I catch myself laughing, that's the same laugh my father makes, and I hate it, and I try to change it. But unfortunately, it just comes about naturally. You know, sometimes things are like that. In any case, I think it's because there's this whole theme of parental family stuff that the stories resonate with so many people. Shamie took a lot of like cool moments and cool fights to get to the meaty parts of the story of Ryoshu. I like how you could just actually be a theory, you just read the story and understand that's the point. Yeah. I mean, someone spelled out the story like that. I also believe it is that, but I'm missing some points of this theory. Bear with me, it has been a while since I read that theory, so I don't have it fresh in my mind. I'm missing some key point component here that made it a theory. Also, we never learned who her dad is, right? Like biological father. Not that it mattered much, but still.
일대를 다 쓸어버렸던 놈이 있었지.
Yeah, go. We're still on time here. I forgot to count how many combat nodes we did today. I think we did 2 long fights, so that was 9 pages today. I'll round it up to 10. And depending on how we go with the book, we might as well finish it today. Anyway, sorry, we got on a tangent here, but it was an interesting discussion. Will Ryoshi get a bad ending idea? Saying because some YouTubers talked about it. Of course she will. It was confirmed that she will. You can't just call it the content of the story a theory. Well, some people do.
옛날에 외부 강사로 뛰던 것이 생각나네.
Including me, apparently, because it's been a while.
한 놈만 잡아 죽이라겠대.
And for that, I apologize, but still.
일대를 다 쓸어버렸던 놈이 있었지.
Now that I think about it, the person who said this, now that I think about it, never actually played the game. He watched it on YouTube, so maybe that's what. Well, haven't I? Don't I look like a fool, falling for the same fallacy that these people fall into? Again, it has been a while. I don't have the story fresh in my mind. Anyway, Ryoshi is getting a bad end ID because it's been confirmed on the roadmap live stream.
인자 재미 좀 먹었구만. 칼 단단히 잡고 총알 쓰는 놈들은.
Alright, this is gonna take a while. We're probably gonna have to play the full karma gimmick here because they don't have the power to. Where are you targeting? Here. Why are my dogs barking outside? I honestly need to replay Kanto 9 at some point. I think I tried to stream Kanto 9 when I played it, and I don't think I was paying full attention to it because it was literally my first stream. And now that I'm a bit more experienced, I can probably, I was just trying to make sure everything was working fine. I was trying to talk. Still kind of awkward. It still am, but yeah. My bad, it kind of sound rude. Don't worry about it. I deserve the rudeness on the Zagard because I let myself fall for the same problem as people that only watch the games on YouTube fall. Where I read someone's theory on the Discord channel and that's an interesting theory, and I completely forgot about the story. That is literally the story. Good enough. Usually other IDs will get through this protection really easy, but these guys are struggling a little bit. But we'll make do. Don't worry about being rude to me, Kyla. I have thicker skin than that. I live in South America. You're free to call this streamer a dumbass whenever he's acting like a dumbass. That's just how things go. And I am a certified grade 1 dumbass. I'll tell you what, I'm giving a lot of grade 9 rafts, grade 9 fixers a run for their money. Bop. Alright, we can go one-sided attack all around. She also doesn't want Ryoshi to leave the house despite the entirely too, as she talked about how Ryoshi cannot be free while severing the spider's head. She didn't want Ryoshi to stay there. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, I'm going to be as spiteful, as negative, as bad as possible to my daughter, so she comes to resent this space that she lives in and leaves entirely, because I don't want her to go through the same thing I did, because she appreciated her freedom more than anyone, and she got that freedom taken away by unwanted parenthood,
가자.
probably forced by the pinkies. Because what was she going to do? Defy the entirety of one of the fingers and get hunted down? And we don't know. We literally don't know literally nothing about the pinky so far. All of these that has happened so far, I only know that they don't gather in large groups. They sometimes hear the call and gather together, and that's pretty much it. We don't know jack and shit about the pinky. All right. Ah, no one can break through the deceitful thing.
맞는 공부가
옛날에
없었다고.
외부 강사로 뛰던 것이
He got rid of his karma. What a sneaky little fella. And he's all powered up too. Let's change that. I say, let's change that. Rian talks a lot for he's trying to, you know, he's trying to be nonchalant about the whole thing, but he really cares in some way, shape, or form. I think it's specifically when Ryoshu gets back with her red eyes as well, because she got an augmentation. They even share a cigarette. I really like the Christmas eagle. That part broken? Why didn't it continue? Oh yeah, I did lose the clash. Good. An attack power down for you, buddy. Now you are fully and completely debuffed. We are just gonna beat the hell out of you on your part broken, so you take maximum damage and we can finish the mirror dungeon before the maintenance hit.
제대로 찝었군.
Now let's do a little thought experiment here, everyone. We talked about how bad all the 5 nurse fathers were. But let's say you got hit by a truck and isekai into Project Moon, and you are giving a degree of control where you're going. You can choose one of the nurse fathers to be your parent. Who's it gonna be? Rian isn't pleasant to be around because everyone can tell that he's being fake all the time. There's not an ounce of honesty on that man. And especially because if you understand how the index kind of works, you know that he can do something horrible at the drop of a hat with nothing telling you otherwise. All right, we have finished today's mirror dungeon. That means we can get to our book reading. Now, as always, if you were here only for gameplay, it's time to leave because I'm going to start reading a book now. I'm going to read the final part of Merso's book. We have 10 pages to go because we only collected 10 pages today. But wouldn't you want to learn the mysteries of corporism together with a loving parent? It's just gonna be a little stinky. Right, so like I said, before we start, Rosespanner workshop. They are underwhelming, honestly. They have some interesting ideas going on, especially Rosespanner Rhodia, where she Tremor bursts and is able to gain a lot of damage ups. Let's go over to her real quick. Actually, let's go with this image for today. Where is she? Anyway, she has a interesting passive. She can technically gain this forever because there's no limit on how many times this can be done. As long as she Tremor bursts, she gains blunt damage and haste. But it's strange because for starter, none of his skills clash really well. They do have 63 offense level, but that's nothing. And yeah, it's interesting idea, poor execution, I'd say. Same for the other two, but they are 00, so there's nothing really crazy about them. They are the accursed rupture tremor team that we don't know that it does. Technically, this boy here can apply a lot of count, so there is that. I think it's true, yeah. choo-choo count, which is pretty interesting. And since skill tree don't actually inflict, yeah, he applies, no. Inflict rupture, inflict rupture, inflict rupture. Yeah, he can apply true count of rupture, true count of tremor on his skill true, which is okay, I suppose. It's a single coin skill, so you're not going to consume the same rupture. And skill tree doesn't actually apply, but that's it. That's all this ID has going on for him, is applying lots of rupture, lots of tremor. You have better options for that. And Mersault, the only really cool part about his kit, in my opinion, is the attack power down on his skill 2, and maybe the Giga Tremor boost at the end here, which is even that powerful. And I think it's 5 times 5 to 10. Yeah, no, on use of his finishing run up, he fuels half the max of the amped tremor burst. So as long as he has 10 charge, he can do like a big tremor burst. But that's it. That's Rosespanner is kind of a meh thing. They kind of exist. They're kind of there. And Rodeo is good for tremor bursting. That's it. Anyway, let me boot up the book and get ourselves nice and comfortable. Just a second. I'm gonna get some water. Book's on table. Let me just make sure the zoom is appropriate to the size of this text. And there we go. Now, where did we stop? We stopped at page 55. Here's, yeah, we stopped here. I'm gonna get myself some water and then we're gonna start reading. All right, so hang tight. And boop. I have read. Hello. So, in Mersault's bizarre adventure under the sun, Mersault shot a man in the beach after a slight altercation and being sun-blasted. Now he is in jail for over 6 months and now he's being tried. The prosecutor is drawing attention to the fact that after his mother died, he carried business on as usual. Went to the beach, found a beautiful lady, watched movies, didn't shed a single tear, and just behaved as normal. Continue smoking a cigarette after done reading. We only did 10 combat notes today, but depending on how far along we are on the book, we are going to continue until the end. But it also depends because I'm very tired. It's really hot in here. I need to take a bath. But here we go. Let me just store my desk fan somewhere that it actually, you know, hits me. And we will continue our horrible dramatic reading in a moment. Later, I'll do the coffee after. Don't worry. I'll make it. Don't worry. I have to go now. I have to read this book before my responsibility has been put off long enough. And ready to end of the book though. Passing Homer token describing his own pending death, such lack of emergency. All right, Kyle. See you around. Always nice to have you around. In any case, here we go. Hardly anyone seemed to listen to Mason, the next witness. He stated that I was a respectable young fellow, and what's more, a very decent chap. Nor did they pay any attention to Salamando when he told him how kind I'd always been to his dog, or when I, in answer to a question about my mother and myself, he said that mother and I had value in common, and that he explained why I'd fixed up or entered the home. You got to understand, yeah, you got to understand, but no one seemed to understand. he was told to stand down. Raymond was the next and last witness. He gave me a little wave of his hand and led off by saying I was innocent. The judge rebuked me. You are here to give evidence, not your views on the case. You must confine yourself to answering the questions put you. He was then asked to make clear his relations with the deceased. Raymond took this opportunity to explain that it was he, not I, against whom the dead man had a grudge, because he, Raymond, had beaten up his sister. The judge asked him if the deceased had no reason to dislike me. 2. Raymond told him that my presence on the beach that morning was pure coincidence. How come it then, the prosecutor inquired, that the letter which led up to this tragedy was the prisoner's work? Raymond replied that this too was due to a mere chance. To which the prosecutor retorted that in this case, chance or mere coincidence seemed to play a remarkably large part. Was it by chance that I had intervened when Raymond assaulted his mistress? Did this convenient term chance account for my having vouched for Raymond at the police station, having made on that occasion statements extravagantly favorable to him? In conclusion, he asked Raymond to state what were his means of livelihood. On his describing himself as a warehouseman, the prosecutor informed the jury it was common knowledge that the witness lived on the immoral earnings of women. I, he said, was this man's intimate friend and associate. In fact, the whole background of the crime was of the most squalid description. And what made it even more odious was the personality of the prisoner, an inhuman monster wholly without a moral sense. Raymond began to expostulate, and my lawyer too protested. They were told that the prosecutor must be allowed to finish his remarks. I have nearly done, he said, then turned to Raymond. Was the prisoner your friend? Certainly, we were the best of pals, as they say. The prosecutor then put me the same question. I looked hard at Raymond and he did not turn away. Then, yes, I answered. The prosecutor turned toward the jury. Not only did the man before you in the dock indulge in the most shameful orgies on the day following his mother's death, he killed a man cold-bloodedly in pursuance of some sordid vendetta in the underworld of prostitutes and pimps. That, gentlemen of the jury, is the type of man the prisoner is. No sooner had he sat down than my lawyer, out of all patience, raised his arms so high that his sleeves fell back, showing the full length of his starched shirt cuffs. Is my client on trial for having buried his mother or for killing a man? He asked. There were some titters in court. But then the prosecutor sprang to his feet and, wrapping his gown around him, said he was amazed at his friend's ingenuousness in failing to see between those two elements of the case that were a vital link. They hung together psychologically. If he might put it so, in short, he concluded. Speaking with great vehemence, I accused the prisoner of behaving at his mother's funeral in a way that showed he was already a criminal at heart. These words seemed to take much effect on the jury and public. My lawyer merely shrugged his shoulders and wiped the sweat from his forehead, but obviously he was rattled, and I had feeling things weren't going well for me. Soon after this incident, the court rose, and I was being taken from the courthouse to the prison van. I was conscious for a few brief moments of the familiar feel of the summer evening out of doors, and sitting in the darkness of my moving cell, I recognized echoing in my tired brain all the characteristic sounds of a town I'd loved. And of a certain hour of the day which I had always particularly enjoyed. The shouts of newspaper boys in the already languid air, the last calls of birds in the public garden, the cries of sandwich vendors, the screech of streetcars at the steep corners of the upper town, and that faint rustling overhead as darkness sifted down upon the harbor. All these sounds made my return to prison like a blind man's journey along a route whose every inch he knows by heart. Yes, this was the evening hour when, how long ago it seemed, I always felt so well content with life. Then what awaited me was a night of easy, dreamless sleep. This was the same hour, but with a difference. I was returning to a cell, and what awaited me was a night haunted by forebodings of the coming day. So I learned that familiar paths tracing the dusk of summer evenings may lead as well to prisons as to innocent, untroubled sleep. It is always interesting, even in the prisoner's dock, to hear oneself being talked about. And certainly in the speeches of my lawyer and the prosecuting counsel, a great deal was said about me. More in fact about me personally than about my crime. Really, there wasn't any very great difference between the two speeches. Counsel for the defense raised his arms to heaven and pleaded guilty, but with extenuating circumstances. The prosecutor made similar gestures. He agreed that I was guilty, but denied extenuating circumstances. One thing about this phase of the trial was rather irksome. Quite often, interested as I was in what they had to say, I was tempted to put in a word myself, but my lawyer had advised me not to. You won't do your case any good by talking. He had warned me. In fact, they seemed to be a conspiracy to exclude me from these proceedings. I wasn't to have any say on my fate was to be decided out of hand. It was quite an effort at times for me to refrain from cutting them all short and say, "But damn it all, who is on trial in this court? I'd like to know. It's a serious matter for a man being accused of murder, and I've something really important to tell you." However, on second thoughts, I found I had nothing to say. In any case, I must admit that hearing oneself talked about loses its interest very soon. The prosecutor's speech especially began to bore me before he was halfway through it. The only things that really caught my attention were occasional phrases, his gestures, and some elaborate tirades. But these were isolated patches. What he was aiming at, I gathered, was to show that my crime was premeditated. I remember he saying at one moment, "I can prove this, gentlemen of the jury, to the hilt. First, you have the facts of the crime, which are clear as daylight, and then you have what I may call the night side of the scale, the dark workings of criminal mentality." He began by summing up the facts from my mother's death onward. He stressed my heartlessness, my inability to state mother's age, my visit to the swimming pool where I met Marie, or matinee at the pictures where a Fernando film was showing, and finally my return with Marie to my rooms. I didn't quite follow his remark at first, as he kept on mentioning the prisoner's mistress, whereas for me she was just Marie. Then he came to the subject of Raymond. It seemed to me that his way of treating the facts showed a certain shrewdness. All he said sounded quite plausible. I had written the letter in conclusion with Raymond so as to entice his mistress to his room and subject her to ill treatment by a man of more than dubious reputation. Then on the beach I provoked a brawl with Raymond's enemies, in the course of which Raymond was wounded. I asked him for his revolver and went back by myself with the intention of using it. Then I shot the Arab. After the first shot I waited. Then, to be certain of making a good job of it, I fired 4 more shots deliberately, point blank and in cold blood at my victim. "That is my case," he said. "I have described to you the series of events which led this man to kill the deceased, fully aware of what he was doing. I emphasize this point. We are not concerned with an act of homicide committed on a sudden impulse, which might serve as extenuation. I ask you to note, gentlemen of the jury, that the prisoner is an educated man. You have observed the way in which he answered my questions. He is intelligent and he knows the value of words. And I repeat that it is quite impossible to assume that, when he committed a crime, he was unaware that he was doing what he was doing." I noticed that he laid stress on my intelligence. It puzzled me rather why that would count as a good point in an ordinary person should be used against an accused man as an overwhelming proof of his guilt. While thinking this over, I missed what he said next, until I heard him exclaim indignantly, "And has he uttered a word of regret for his most odious crime? Not one word, gentlemen. Not once in the course of these proceedings did this man show the least contrition." 1 second, please. Right, continue on. Turning towards the dock, he pointed a finger at me and went on in the same strain. I really couldn't understand why he harped on this point so much. Of course, I had to own that he was right. I didn't feel much regret for what I've done. Still, to my mind, he overdid it, and I'd have liked to have a chance of explaining to him, in a quite friendly, almost affectionate way, that I have never been able to regret anything at all in my life. I've always been far too much absorbed in the present moment, or the immediate future, to think back. Of course, in the position into which I had been forced, there was no question of my speaking to anyone in that tone. I hadn't the right to show my friendly feeling or possess good intentions, and I tried to follow what came next, as the prosecutor was now considering what he called my soul. He said he'd studied it closely and found a blank. Literally nothing, gentlemen of the jury. Really, he said I had no soul. There was nothing human about me. Not one of those moral qualities which normal men possess had any place in my mentality. No doubt, he added, we should not reproach him with this. We cannot blame a man for lacking what it was never in his power to acquire. But in a criminal court, the wholly passive ideal of tolerance must give a place to a sterner, loftier ideal, that of justice. Especially when this lack of every decent instinct is such that the man before you a menace to society. He proceeded to discuss my conduct toward my mother, repeating what he had said in the course of the hearing, but he spoke at a much greater length of my crime. Such length, indeed, that I lost the thread and was conscious only for a steadily increasing heat, only of the steadily increasing heat. A moment came when the prosecutor paused, and after a short silence, said in a low, vibrant voice, "This same court, gentlemen, will be called on to try tomorrow that most odious of crimes, the murder of a father by his son." To his mind, such a crime was almost unimaginable, but he ventured to hope justice would be meted on without paltering. Yet he made bold to say the horror that even the crime of patricide inspired in him paled beside the loathing inspired by my callousness. This man, who is morally guilty of his mother's death, is no less unfit to have a place in the community than the other man who did to death the father that begat him. And indeed, the one crime led on to the other. The first of these true criminals, the man in the dock, set a precedent, if I may put it so, and authorized the second crime. Yes, gentlemen, I am convinced, here he raised his voice a tone, that you will not find I am exaggerating the case against the prisoner when I say that he is also guilty of murder to be tried tomorrow in this court, and I look to you for a verdict accordingly. The prosecutor paused again to wipe the sweat off his face. He then explained that his duty was a painful one, but he would do it without flinching. This man has, I repeat, no place in a community whose basic principles he flouts without compunction. Nor, heartless as he is, has he any claim to mercy. I ask you to impose the extreme penalty of the law, and I ask it without a qualm. In the course of a long career in which it has often been my duty to ask for a capital sentence, never have I felt that painful duty weigh so little on my mind as in the present case. In demanding a verdict of murder without extenuating circumstances, I am following not only the dictates of my consciousness and a sacred obligation, but also those of the natural and righteous indignation. I feel at the sight of a criminal devoid of the least spark of human feeling. The prosecutor sat down there with a longish silence. Personally, I was quite overcome by the heat and my amazement at what I had been hearing. The presiding judge gave a short cough and asked me in a very low tone if I had anything to say. I rose, and I felt in the mood to speak. I said the first thing that crossed my mind, that I had no intention of killing the Arab. The judge replied that this statement would be taken into consideration by the court. Meanwhile, he would be glad to hear before my counsel addressed the court. Meanwhile, he would be glad to hear before my counsel addressed the court what were the motives of my crime. So far, he must admit he hadn't fully understood the grounds of my defense. I tried to explain that it was because of the son, but I spoke too quickly and ran my words into each other. I was only too conscious that it sounded nonsensical, and in fact, I heard people tittering. My lawyer shrugged his shoulders, then he was directed to address the court, in his turn, but all he did was to point out the lateness of the hour and to ask for adjournment to the following afternoon. To this, the judge agreed. When I was brought back the next day, the electric fans were still turning up the heavy air, and the jurymen plying their gaudy little fans in a sort of steady rhythm. The speech for the defense seemed to be, to me, interminable. At one moment, however, I pricked up my ears. It was when I heard him saying, "It is true I killed a man." He went on in the same strain, saying "I" when he referred to me. It seemed so queer that I bent forward the policeman on my right and asked him to explain. He told me to shut up. Then, after a moment, whispered, "They all do that." It seemed to me that the idea behind it was still to further to exclude me from the case, put me off the map, so to speak, by substituting a lawyer for myself. Anyway, it hardly mattered. I already felt words away from this courtroom and its tedious proceedings. My lawyer, in any case, struck me as feeble to the point of being ridiculous. He hurried through his plea of provocation, and then he too started about my soul. But I had an impression that he had much less talent than the prosecutor. "I too," he said, "have closely studied this man's soul, but unlike my learned friend from the prosecution, I have found something there. Indeed, I may say that I have read the prisoner's mind like an open book." What he had read there was that I was an excellent young fellow, a steady, conscientious worker who did his best by his employer, that I was popular with everyone and sympathetic in others' troubles. According to him, I was a dutiful son who had supported his mother as long as he was able. After anxious consideration, I had reached the conclusion that, by entering a home, the old lady would have comforts that my means didn't permit me to provide for her. "I am astounded, gentlemen," he added, "by the attitude taken up by my learned friend in referring to this home. Surely, if proof be needed of the excellence of such institutions, we need only remember that they are promoted and financed by the government department. I noticed that he made no reference to the funeral, and this seemed to be a serious omission. But what with his long-windedness, the endless days and hours they had been discussing my soul, and the rest of it, I found that my mind had gone blurred. Everything was dissolved into grayish, watery haze. Only one incident stands out toward the end. While my counsel rambled on, I heard the tin trumpet of an ice cream vendor in the street, a small shrill sound cutting across the flow of words. And then a rush of memories went through my head. Memories of a life which was mine no longer, and had once provided me with the surest, humblest pleasures. Warmest smells of summer, my favorite streets, the sky at the evening, Marie's dresses and her laugh. The futility of what was happening here seemed to take me by the throat. I felt like vomiting, and I had only one idea: to get it over it. Go back to my cell and sleep and sleep. Dimly, I heard my counsel making his last appeal. Gentlemen of the jury, surely we will not send to his death a decent, hard-working young man because of one tragic moment he lost his self-control. Is he not sufficiently punished by the lifelong remorse that is to be his lot? I confidently await for your verdict, the only verdict possible, that of homicide with the extenuating circumstances. The court rose and the lawyer sat down, looking thoroughly exhausted. Some of his colleagues came to him and shook his hand. "You put up a magnificent show, old man," I heard one of them say. Another lawyer even called me to witness. Fine, wasn't it? I agreed, but insincerely. I was far too tired to judge if it had been fine or otherwise. Meanwhile, the day was ending and the heat becoming less intense. By some vague sounds that reached me from the street, I knew that the cool of the evening had set in. We all sat on, waiting, and what we all were waiting for really concerned nobody but me. I looked around the courtroom. It was exactly as it had been on the first day. I met the eyes of the journalist in gray and the robot woman. This reminded me that not once during the whole hearing I had tried to catch up Marie's eye. It wasn't that I'd forgotten her, only I was too preoccupied. I saw her now, seated between Celeste and Raymond. She gave me a little wave of her hand as if to say, "At last." She was smiling, but I could tell that she was rather anxious. But my heart seemed to turn to stone, and I couldn't even return her smile. The judges came back to their seats. Someone read out the jury, very rapidly, a string of questions. I caught a word here and there. Murder of malice, aforethought, provocation, extenuating circumstances. The jury went on, and I was taken to the little room where I had already waited. My lawyer came to see me. He was very talkative and showed more cordiality and confidence than ever before. He assured me that all would go well when I'd get off with a few years imprisonment of transportation. I asked him what were the chances of getting the sentence squashed. He said there was no chance of that. He had not raised any point of law, as this was apt to prejudice the jury, and it was difficult to get a judgment quashed except on technical grounds. I saw his point and agreed. Looking at the matter dispassionately, I shared his view. Otherwise, there will be no end to litigation. In any case, the lawyer said, you can appeal in the ordinary way, but I'm convinced the verdict will be favorable. We waited for quite a while, a good 3/4 of an hour, I should say. Then a bell rang. My lawyer left me saying, the foreman of the jury will read out the answers. He will be called on after that to hear the judgment. Some doors banged. I heard people hurrying down flight of steps, but couldn't tell whether they were nearby or distant. Then I heard a voice droning away in the courtroom. When the bell rang again and I stepped back into the dock, the silence of the courtroom closed in around me. And with the silence came a queer sensation when I noticed that, for the first time, the young journalist kept his eyes averted. I didn't look at Marie's direction. In fact, I had no time to look, as the presiding judge had already started pronouncing a rigmarole to the effect that, in the name of the French people, I was to be decapitated in some public space. It seemed to me that I could interpret the look on the face of those present. It was one of almost respectful sympathy. The policeman, too, handled me very gently. The lawyer placed his hand on my wrist. I had stopped thinking altogether. I heard the judge's voice asking if I had anything more to say. After thinking for a moment, I answered no. Then the policeman led me out. Get some water. I have just refused for the third time to see the prison chaplain. I have nothing to say to him, don't feel like talking, and shall be seeing him quite soon enough anyway. The only thing that interests me now is the problem of circumventing the machine, learning if the inevitable admits a loophole. They have moved me to another cell. In this one, lying on my back, I can see the sky, and there is nothing else to see. All my time is spent in watching the slowly changing colors of the sky as they move on tonight. I put my hands behind my head and gaze up and wait. The problem of a loophole obsesses me. I am always wondering if there have been cases of condemned prisoners escaping from the implacable machinery of justice at the last moment, breaking through the police cordon, vanishing into the nick of time before the guillotine falls. Often and often I blame myself for not having given more attention to the accounts of public execution. One should always take an interest in such matters. There's never any knowing what one may come to. Like everyone else, I'd read descriptions of execution in the papers, but technical books dealing with this subject must certainly exist. Only I'd never felt sufficiently interested to look them up, and in those books I might have found escape stories. Surely they have told me that in one case anyhow, the wheels had stopped, that once, if only once, in that inexorable march of events, chance or luck had played a happy part. Just once. In a way, I think that single instance would have satisfied me. My emotion would have done the rest. The papers often talk of a debt owed to society. A debt which, according to them, must be paid by the offender. But talk of that sort doesn't touch the imagination. No. The one thing that counted for me was the possibility of making a dash for it and defeating their bloodthirsty right. Of a mad stampede to freedom that would anyhow give me a moment's hope. The gambler's last throw. Naturally, all that hope could come to was to be knocked down at the corner of a street or picked off by a bullet in my back. But all things considered, even this luxury was forbidden me. I was caught in the threat trap irrevocably. Try as I might, I couldn't stomach this brutal certitude. But really, when one came to think of it, there was a disproportion between the judgment on which it was based and the unalterable sequence of events starting from the moment when that judgment was delivered. The fact that the verdict was read out at 8 p.m. rather than at 5, the fact that it might have been quite different, that it was given by men who changed their underclothes and was credited to so vague an entity as the French people, for the matter, why not, to the Chinese or the German people. All these facts seem to deprive the court's decision of much of its gravity. Yet I could but recognize that from this moment the verdict was given, its effects became as cogent, as tangible as, for example, this wall against which I was laying, pressing my back to it. When such thoughts crossed my mind, I remembered a story Mother used to tell me about my father. I had never set eyes on him. Perhaps the only things I really knew about him were that my mother had told me. One of these was that he'd gone to see a murderer executed. The mere thought of it turned his stomach, but he'd seen it through and on coming home was violently sick. At the time I found my father's conduct rather disgusting, but now I understood. It was so natural. How had I failed to recognize that nothing was more important than an execution that, viewed from one angle, it's the only thing that can genuinely interest a man. And I decided that, if I ever got out of jail, I'd attend every execution that took place. I was unwise, no doubt, even to consider this possibility. For the moment I'd picture myself in freedom, standing behind a double rank of policemen, on the right side of the line, so to speak. The mere thought of being an onlooker who comes to see the show and can go home and vomit afterward flooded my mind with a wild, absurd exultation. It was a stupid thing to let my imagination run away with me like that. A moment later, I had a shivering fit and had to wrap myself closely in my blanket. But my teeth went on chattering. Nothing would stop them. Still, obviously one can't be sensible all the time. Another equally ridiculous fancy of mine was to frame new laws, altering the penalties. What was wanted to my mind was to give the criminal a chance, if only a dog's chance, say 1 chance in 1,000. There might be some drug or combination of drugs which would kill the patient. I thought of him as the patient. 999 times in 1,000. That he should know this was, of course, essential. For after taking much thought calmly, I came to the conclusion that what was wrong about the guillotine was that the condemned man had no chance at all. Absolutely none. In fact, the patient's death had been ordained irrevocably. It was a foregone conclusion. If by some fluke the knife didn't do its job, they started again. So it came to this, that against the grain, no doubt, the condemned man had to hope the apparatus was in good working order. This, I thought, was a flaw in the system. and on the face of it, my view was sound enough. On the other hand, I had to admit it proved the efficiency of the system. It came to this: the man under the sentence was obliged to collaborate mentally. It was his interest that all should go off without a hitch. Another thing I had to recognize was that until now I had wrong ideas on the subject. For some reason, I'd always supposed that one had to go up steps and climb onto a scaffold to be guillotined. Probably that was because of the 1789 revolution. I mean, what I learned about it at school and the pictures I had seen, then the pictures I had seen. Then one morning I remember a photograph at the newspaper had pictured on the occasion of the execution of a famous criminal. Actually, the apparatus stood on the ground, and there was nothing very impressive about it. It was much narrower than I imagined. It struck me as a rather odd that the picture had escaped my memory until now. What had struck me at the time was the neat appearance of the guillotine. Its shining surfaces and finish reminded me of some laboratory instrument. One always has exaggerated ideas about what one doesn't know. Now, I had to admit it seemed a very simple process: getting guillotined. The machine is on the same level as the man, and he walks towards it as he steps forward to meet somebody he knows. In a sense, that too was disappointing. The business of climbing a scaffold, leaving the world below, so to speak, gave something for a man's imagination to get hold of. But as it was, the machine dominated everything. They killed you discreetly, with a hint of shame and much efficiency. There were two other things about which I was always thinking: the dawn and my appeal. However, I did my best to keep my mind off these thoughts. I lay down, looked up at the sky, and forced myself to study it. When the light began to turn green, I knew that night was coming. Another thing I did to reflect the course of my thoughts was to listen to my heart. I could imagine that this faint throbbing, which had been with me for so long, would ever cease. Imagination has never been one of my strong points. Still, I tried to picture a moment when the beating of my heart no longer echoed in my head. But in vain. The dawn and my appeal were still there, and I ended by believing it was a silly thing to try to force one's thought out of their natural groove. They always came for one at dawn, that much I knew, so really all my nights were spent in waiting for that dawn. I have never liked being taken by surprise. When something happens to me, I want to be ready for it. That's why I got into the habit of sleeping off and on in the daytime and watching through the night for the first hint of daybreak, in the dark dome above. The worst period of the night was the vague hour when I knew they usually come. Once it was after midnight. I waited, listening intently. Never before had my ears received so many noises, such a tiny sound. Still, I must say, I was lucky in one respect. Never during any of those periods did I hear footsteps. Mother used to say that whoever miserable one is, there's always something to be thankful for. And each morning, when the sky brightened and light began to flood in my cell, I agreed with her, because I might just as well have heard footsteps, and I felt my heart shattered into bits. Even though the faintest rustle sent me hurrying to the door and pressing an ear to the rough, cold wood, I listened so intently that I could hear my breathing, quick and hoarse like a dog's panting. Even so, there was an end. My heart hadn't split, and I knew I had another 24 hours respite. Then, all day there was my appeal to think about. I made the most of this idea, studying my effects so as to squeeze out the maximum of consolation. Thus, I always began by assuming the worst. My appeal was dismissed. That meant, of course, I was to die. Sooner than others, obviously, but I reminded myself, it's common knowledge that life isn't worth living anyhow. And on a wide view, I could see that it makes little difference whether one died at the age of 30 or 70, since in either case, other men and women will continue living. The world will go on as before. Also, whether I died now or 40 years hence, this business of dying had to be got through, inevitably. Still, somehow, this line of thought wasn't as consoling as it should have been. The idea of all those years of my life in hand was a galling reminder. However, I could argue myself out of it by picturing what would have been my feelings when my term was up and death had cornered me. Once you're up against it, the precise manner of your death has obviously small importance. Therefore, but it was hard not to lose the thread of the argument leading up to that, therefore, I should be prepared to face the dismissal of my appeal. Very well. With this, we've finished today's book reading. There only did 10 pages, was a blessedly short, blessedly short stream, Mirror Dungeon, because the Rosespanner workshop is not a very fun thing to use. In any case, with our Mirror Dungeon complete and our book reading complete as well, that is it for today. Thank you all so much for watching today's ID study and book reading. We're probably going to be finishing the book tomorrow. If you enjoyed the stream, please recommend it to your friends, but if you did not, please recommend it to your enemies. Now, if you really liked it and wish to give some support here to the channel, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe on YouTube, a follow on Twitch, all the good stuff that helps like you wouldn't believe. With all that said, thank you once again, sweet kisses, and goodbye.